makeup of the 53-man roster.
Yes, you always keep. Realistically, D-Led, you got to put it on a different format nowadays because all the new rules that's been put in place, right? It's like it's the best 69 people that you can keep on your roster because of all the new rules. Some of the things that you got to adapt and adjust to, whether it's a day off or the media can't come in, or it's having 69 players with people that you can flex up on rosters in order to form your 48-man roster that's allowed on game day, or 49 if you keep the third quarterback. So all of those things are always a part of it. So decisions are always made to keep the best people in place in order to find ways to win games as much as we can. Come on in, Josh. You're okay. You're not fine today. D-Led just absolutely took all the fines away from everybody before this press conference started, so you're good. Yes.
Yeah, and the practice squad after you that hustle and bustle to get people back and pick up people outside of the rim of the 90 men you already had.
So the hustle and bustle outside of the 90-man rim that we already have is being done throughout the whole term of training camp. You know, we got all these young scouts upstairs, Akeem and Ben and all those guys, and Sal and all those guys that just scour through rosters, and they do such a great job of watching and evaluating tape and looking at it all, and then able to report their reports to Ryan Pace, and it goes to Cal Smith, and obviously it gets to Terry Fontenot. And, you know, those guys had just a rougher time as we do in the draft of staying up here the last couple of days and really discussing and finding out what best fits us and how we go about that process. It's been I really respect the amount of work that our organization puts into the bottom and the top of our roster to formulate what we're able to come up with. And like I said, man, forming that 69 players that can be on your football team is a special occasion. It's awesome to watch and to get the information from the other guys. When I can sit here with my coaches and evaluate the guys that we have on the roster, they're able to evaluate the rest of the league and find out what's best fits us, who we like to bring in and who we like to see, whether it be now or whether it be future use. I think it's always good to go do that with those guys.
In the Super Bowl year, how many players were up? I know when Green Bay with McCarthy, you said that they had so many injuries that year. It was 78 players that, played in the game or were up and active. So people look at the 48, but you really kind of got to have 80 plus.
You know, it's just like I said, man, you guarantee 69 guys at the beginning of the season. And as we know, this game is historically you lose people just throughout it. We talked about how many quarterback plays last year alone. I think it was 66 or whatever the case may be, quarterbacks, right? So just imagine the other positions on the stuff that you go through with attrition and people that are going to come back and how this thing always circles back to those people and the people that you know and all type of things. So, that work is just critical. So, the things that our scouts do behind the scenes, the things that our coaches the things that they pass to our coaches, all that work is all critical just throughout the process, D-Led. I got, like I said, so much respect for all of our evaluators and all of our people in our front office that's able to go through that process with Terry and all those guys and be able to put us in position to have the best people on our roster that we possibly can have.
I know that people make a lot about initial 53-man, but there are a lot of names who meant a lot to your preseason that are on this practice squad. So Carlos Washington, Kevin King, Chris Blair. How important was it to you to keep those guys around?
Very important. Like I mentioned, Tori, I don't even call it the practice squad. I just call it an extension of our roster. And I know it is. I know that's the term, but I got so much. I told those guys yesterday. I got so much respect for all those guys. The guys that you just named, included with the other guys that we got, that I feel really confident, other than people that I wouldn't know right off the back, of being able to flex guys up in exactly what role they'd be able to play for us right now. And those roles obviously get increased as you go throughout a season and you're able to prepare and practice and do different things. But like we talked about, injuries happen and you got to have people up. And you got the tool of being able to flex people up nowadays, and that's really made it an extension of our roster, especially getting 3 flexes a person until you got to make real decisions whether you put them on 53 or not.
I can't remember if this was you or Terry that said y'all would do this exercise where you would write down the best 53 men on the 90-man roster, and regardless of position, just who are the best players. I'm curious what that exercise looked like and how close this initial 53-man relate to that.
That's definitely Terry exercise. For me, I sit in my office and I kind of do my own deal, and then we collaborate together and see how close we are. And a lot of time is really close, and then that brings up the ultimate discussion on how you keep the best people. And I know I can rely on Terry and Kyle and Ryan to have the best ways and avenues and places and ways we can keep the best people on our roster. And that's when it comes to listening, that skill that we talked about and what's different between Raheem Morris now and then. Being able to listen to those guys and figure out how do we do those things and have opinions, but at the same time be able to listen to some of the people that's put in those positions that go through that every single day.
We talked to Kirk during training camp, and he was kind of talking about the general anxiety that you have this time of year and getting ready for week one and just making sure you are on your P's and Q's with everything that's being installed. What's it like for a coach, especially when you get to this point, you're just post cuts and you've got a week and a half before that first game? Do you kind of feel that same, nervous, not nervous, but just that.
It's okay to say nervous.
Anxiousness of, do we have everything ready?
Yeah, it's not, you prepare for these moments. And for coaches, really, this is the best part, you make the transition from evaluator, to game planner. And you make that transition and you feel really good and comfortable with the amount of stuff that you have. And I've been fortunate enough to be doing it for a while that you start off, I remember the first day of OTA days, and you feel like you don't have enough. And then you feel that nervousness, energy that you got to get this stuff in, you got to get it installed. And by the time you get to this point, you start to feel really comfortable and you got you're fully loaded and you're ready to go out there and prepare and play and game plan and watch the other opponent and really come up with different ideas and schemes and things that you can do in order to go out there and dictate terms, so to speak. And so for coaches, this becomes the really, I don't even know how to say it, but you get real tough, in your office by yourself, then that nervous energy is able to come out, once the national anthem goes, when that first game starts. And then once that happens, it's go time. And I know this, the Pittsburgh Steelers have got a flight. They're coming regardless, and you better be ready.
Raheem, can you confirm that Taylor Heineke is getting sent to the Los Angeles Chargers?
Still in the process. We'll see where that lands out. And then obviously when that's able to be talked about, when it's not a process anymore, we'll do that. Sorry, Mark.
Coach, during Nightcap last weekend, you made a couple of comments about what winning teams do and, how you want to form this team's identity and moving the needle. Are you satisfied that the players that you have now in this 53-man roster can do all of those things, or are you still going to make some moves?
I'm really more than satisfied. You always are trying to upgrade at all times, and it just keeps a subtle edge, right? That competitive edge around your team where everybody's competing, where everybody's trying to be the best version of themselves in order to go out and compete at the highest level every single day. Doing Nightcap was a lot of fun with Shannon and Ocho and being able to talk about some reminiscent things, but that is the essence of ball when you get a chance to talk to former players. I always tell David I like talking to former players, but I don't talk to D-Led by himself because I always love talking to former players when you're talking about football and those moments and those things and how you get winning teams and when it happens and the things that you go through when that stuff happens. It's just so much fun. Just exciting times, but I feel really good about it.
Forgive me if I've asked you this before.
It's okay.
I don't think I have.
Josh, it don't matter. You can ask it twice, whatever.
Kirk's notes. How closely have you looked at the notes that Kirk takes during meetings?
Oh, you don't look at them. I kind of sneak and peek at them. I pry. He sits right in the front of the room, and he's maniacal, right? He has his notes in front of him, and he's throwing his plays, and they're really small, and he's just going through, and I just kind of laugh and shake my head like this guy's sick, And but it's really cool to look at when you just watch a professional, and how he works and how he goes through his process. And it's worked for him clearly. It's worked for him really well up until this point, and I just marvel at it because these become stories that coaches can tell to their children. These become stories that coaches can tell to the people that they coach moving forward, and how well it was done. No different than when you're talking about former coaches that come to mind for me, like Amani Kiffin or Mike Tomlin, and some of the processes that they went through, some of the things that we did out in L.A. When you got a chance to watch a guy like Eric Garber, how he coached wideouts and things of that nature. But all the people that you've been around, you gain those experiences, no different than the players. Eventually that will become my idea for some young quarterback, telling him how to do it because that's what Kirk Cousins did. And those stories become legendary. And if you can just take a peek at it, man, it is really cool to see.
Do you say that to Michael? Do you say, watch this and copy that? Or do you have to let Michael sort of organically develop his own system?
I think option B. You kind of organically develop your own system, but it's definitely good to see somebody go through their process and what it looked like, and then you steal things. That works for me, and you find a way to do that, and you can't make it false enthusiasm that Michael does that, but but I think it has to be something that maybe he captures from him. He may capture that. He may capture meeting presence. He may capture how to command the huddle. He can capture some of the other things that Kirk does. Like yesterday, we were kind of off a little bit, and Kirk, inflection of his voice just absolutely changed the dynamic of the practice within play 3. And you just noticed that from the outside looking in. And all those things, when you got a chance to get some real good coaching points and some real good evaluation points from Michael.
Where does Kirk rank among detailed note takers, quarterbacks you've been around? Is there somebody else that pops to mind? Took, filled the book or drew crazy diagrams?
Man, most of those guys that are psycho. They got their own rhythm and routine, and they're obsessed. And I was around Matthew Stafford, and really I got to put Cooper Kupp in this category as well, where they had this psycho routine where they kind of met it. I don't even know what time it was, but I know I was walking through, and they'd be sitting in that wide receiver / quarterback room, whatever it was, with their maniacal, sick kind of pattern that they did every single week in that room. And I always swerve around because I didn't want to walk through and disturb them. And sometimes I just kind of went through and kind of gave them something just to normalize them a little bit. But yeah, I don't know about the poker chips. You got to ask that. I didn't see the poker chips last year. The last couple of years I was out with them. But I did see what time he got to work. And I remember one time, it was just kind of a joke. This is during COVID. I believe they moved the coffee machine into the team room. And I would walk by sometimes and I see him in the team room, and I thought he was just like going through his plays and all the stuff in his head. And I said something to him one day. He was like, "No, I was just sitting there getting coffee." And I was like, "Oh." So I thought I stumbled into some sick training, but it was just him getting coffee in the morning in the team room.
Raheem, you're talking about kind of transitioning to game planning, and you've got familiarity, obviously, with both of your coordinators, but for the rest of your staff who maybe you haven't worked with before, are there steps you can take during training camp or the preseason to get your game planning process kind of locked down?
Yeah, certainly. I think as a head coach, when you get a chance to move through accordingly and just kind of see where people's strengths grow, and then you kind of see where people are comfortable giving their opinion, I think all of those things, and then really it's up to me to really encourage that behavior. I can talk about lead, like I could tell you exactly what I told him just throughout the process. He has this amazing culture that he's formed in our O-line room. And I said, "Hey, man, you got to bring that outside of the O-line room." And he's been able to bring that culture to the tight ends, to our running backs, and to our half-line drill. And the excitement that he able to bring outside of that room with that O-line where they're got their own little cultish type behavior that's starting to spread throughout the team. And our offense, really, speed off the ball is not a saying on a hat. It is the truth and the statement on how you run the football. And, those are the things that you want to encourage guys to do as you walk around, even to the coaches that you didn't know as well, as you get to know those guys now. And, I think we've been formulating that over the last 4 months. And I think those things will come out as we get further and further down the road.
Can you describe the difference between last week and this week? Not just the amount of players and people that are kind of around the building, but also just the vibe now that intensity shifts to kind of going towards week 1?
Last week, when you're talking about the competitive nature of people fighting for those roster spots and really the evaluation process for the coaches and really the guys trying to show what they can do the best. And now it's like you're just trying to get even more specific in your role clarity in order to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers because nothing else matters, right? So when we're going out now, those are the things and those are the people that are finding those roles and what they have to do in order to go out there to give us the best shot to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I think the clarity kind of clears up for us. I think it kind of slows down. I think some of the things that you're starting to do now is not throw up against the wall and see if it stick. It is direct arrows and darts being thrown at very small, detailed, precise targets.
In a couple weeks now.
That's why I can describe it. Sorry, Tori.
Sorry, I thought you were done.
You always cut me off. It's okay.
I know, I'm sorry, I just get super excited. And you pause sometimes, and I'm like.
I do. I got this dramatic pauses that's kind of
No,
fake.
I'm like, sometimes like.
I've been watching too much Denzel Washington, guys.
All right, I'm going now.
You can't handle the truth, Tori. No. Go ahead, Tori. Sorry, Josh.
Matthew Judon, Justin Simmons been here now for a couple of weeks. When you look at where they are and they're kind of integrating them into this roster and into this team, what are some moments with them as you're kind of walking around the building that really sticks out that makes you excited that you have those two guys here now?
Did you say Matthew and just Justin, right?
Matthew and Justin.
Okay, so Matthew, he's a little further along, obviously, because he was practicing all this time and out where he was at. And so we got him already beefed up into his rep counts. We got him beefed up into full individual, but the personality of Matthew just comes out more and more every single day. And he is live wire. He is a guy who knows a lot of football. He is high intelligence. He is high instinctual. And he brings a little bit of the edge, and he brings a little bit more fun to a practice. Even when you get him and you trick him on something, he's able to very loudly and very clearly articulate that to the offense. Oh, I knew that was coming, but you got me. And it's a lot of fun with him. Where Justin's being I'm kind of just letting the rope out slowly with him, and now we're starting to get to some team plays and do some of those different things. And you're starting to see really the intelligence of Justin and how fast he's able to pick it up and communicate with Jesse or Grant or whoever's out there, or even Alfred at the nickel spot and some of those spots, and how detailed he is in his work, and just a true, absolute professional. So there are different points, but the two guys' personalities are really ringing out, and the character behind both of them in their own different way are really starting to mesh well with our football team.
Do you expect Justin to be ready to contribute week 1?
I do. How much, that'll be determined within the next couple of weeks in the preparation that we move forward when we get into the Steelers preparation. But I certainly think he's going to be one of the major contributors to us throughout.
What have you seen throughout camp of D'Angelo Malone to make that 53-man roster, and what does he mean to just like the special teams unit?
Yeah, let's not even kid ourselves. You guys got a chance to see what D'Angelo means to this football team on every Friday and Saturday that he went out there and absolutely dominated the kicking phase in game. So like you guys got a better picture of that than most, being able to watch those games every single week. So like, these are the factors where, some people say, you don't put much value into the preseason games. No, I do, just in different areas. And D'Angelo Malone was one of those guys that we talked about that role clarity. He found a role in a niche, and he made it that he was undeniable, that you had to find a way to keep him on the football team so he can continue to do that at a very high level.
Does Mike Tomlin know that you do a spot-on impression of him?
He absolutely does. He's told the story many a times, but I was his assistant, and I ran. He's always been developing. He's trying to develop me this week through the media, trying to give me stuff that I should be working on. But he's always been a guy that's a big part of development, and it's kind of what we've been as we kind of grown up in coaching, whether it was Rod Marinelli, whether it was Mike Tomlin, whatever the case may be. When you have younger coaches and people around you want to give them real role clarity, so to speak, again. So I always ran the meetings after practice, and I ran the meetings, and I was sometimes doing his voice. And he would lean outside of his office, which was a closet, and he'd go, "Hey, you imitating me or you coaching?" And we all laugh, all the players knew. But it really wasn't really picking on him. It really was emulating some greatness and some of the things he was able to do. Like nobody can hold the form like Mike Tomlin within the media and everything he deals with the verbiage, with his unique skill set, with his spot-on, accurate descriptions of the things that he's talking about. So it's less about me picking on him. It's more about me really emulating really good things and stealing it. And I've been able to do that over the years. And it just so happens in week 1, man, he's gray matter, and he knows it.
If I'm remembering correctly, you credited him with like showing you that initiative to like look at both the offense and the defense and get that experience in both sides. What did that look like for you early on?
You are spot on. He was one of the first people to even make me even think that way, because he had played offense in college at William & Mary, at the Tribe, as he would say. He played at the Tribe, and he was a receiver. And when I met him, he was a defensive back coach. And he looked at it from an offensive lens and almost everything that we did. And then, like I said, I went to a very upfront place where you had no egos, and John Gruden allows us to be in offensive installs and be able to watch him with his quarterback detail and all those things. So we were nosy, so we attended as many of those as we possibly could. So he was definitely a major part of the encouraging factor of even diving into the offense before I had ever even coached it. The first opportunity I got to coach it was here with Dan Quinn, and really that was full force, no hesitation going into it because of those moments with Mike Tomlin and thinking about the background knowledge that you want to have, being able to coach on defense, having knowledge to coach on offense, and it certainly serves me well right now in the position that I'm in now.